It started with a voice that knew too much. Dorothy Jane Scott had no idea that the phone ringing in her quiet Anaheim home would become the sound that haunted her last days. At first she brushed it off. Wrong number, maybe a prank. But the calls came again and again. Each one whispered her name, described her clothing, told her he loved her, and then said he'd kill her. Dorothy tried to hide her fear, but the voice never stopped calling, and before long she would vanish into the night, leaving behind only a mystery and a voice that never hung up. Dorothy Jane Scott was 32 years old, a devoted single mother to her 4-year-old son, Sean. Friends described her as gentle, quiet, thoughtful. She didn't drink, didn't go out much, didn't seek attention. She worked as a secretary at a small medical supply store in Anaheim, California. Reliable, responsible, the kind of woman everyone trusted. She still lived with her aunt and often spent evenings reading or caring for her son. But even the safest lives can attract darkness. The man began calling months before she disappeared. Sometimes his tone was affectionate. He'd tell her she was beautiful, that he wanted to protect her. Other times, it turned violent. He described in graphic detail how he planned to take her life. One day, he said he'd seen her walking with another man. He described her red scarf, something she had worn only hours earlier. Someone out there was watching Dorothy. She told her parents, her coworkers. She even considered buying a gun, but she was the kind of woman who believed in good. She tried to stay calm, to stay rational. On the night of May 28, 1980, Dorothy attended a staff meeting at work. One of her co-workers, Conrad Bostron, looked pale and unwell. He'd been bitten by a spider and his arm was swelling quickly. Always the caretaker, Dorothy offered to drive him to the hospital. Another co-worker, Pam Head, went along for support. They arrived at UC Irvine Medical Center just before 11 p.m. Dorothy waited patiently in the ER while doctors treated Conrad. She called her parents to let them know she'd be home soon, that Sean was safe with them. No one knew. It would be her last phone call. Around midnight, Dorothy told Pam she would bring the car around from the parking lot. She walked alone into the night. Minutes later, her white Toyota sped past the hospital entrance, headlights glaring. The car moved so fast that Pam barely saw who was inside. She thought, maybe Dorothy was in a hurry. Maybe her son was sick. But hours passed. Dorothy never returned. At 4:30 a.m., her car was found burning in an alley 10 miles away. No sign of Dorothy, no clues, just ash. 1 week later, the phone rang again, this time at Dorothy's parents' home. The same man's voice, calm, confident. "I've got her," he said, then hung up. Every Wednesday afternoon for years, the calls continued. Sometimes he said he loved her. Sometimes he said he had killed her. Police tried to trace the line, but he always hung up too quickly. Only once did they manage to record a call, enough to prove the voice belonged to a man. But that was all they ever caught. For 4 long years, Dorothy's family lived in agony. Then, in August 1984, a construction worker discovered bones near Santa Ana Canyon Road. Among the remains were a turquoise ring and a watch, still ticking, frozen at 12:30 a.m., the time she disappeared. Dental records confirmed it was Dorothy Jane Scott. Her parents said they finally knew. But they still couldn't rest. Investigators searched for connections. Some believed the caller was someone from her workplace, a delivery driver or a customer who had become obsessed. Others thought it might be someone she knew personally, someone who had watched her kindness and twisted it into fixation. No solid suspects were ever charged. The strangest part came years later, when Dorothy's father passed away. The calls stopped, but soon after his obituary appeared in the local paper, the phone rang again. The same voice, calm as ever. Dorothy's mother, Vera, spent the rest of her life searching for answers. She raised Sean alone, telling him stories of the mother he lost too soon. In interviews, she said she could still hear the phone ringing, could still hear his voice. She called it the voice of the devil. Years turned to decades. The case faded from headlines, but for the Scott family, time never softened the sound of that phone. The murder of Dorothy Jane Scott remains unsolved. No arrests, no closure, just a mother and a voice that still lingers in the static. Maybe the caller was someone she passed every day. Maybe he still walks among us, older now, but listening. What's most chilling isn't that Dorothy was taken, it's that she saw it coming, and no one could stop it. Pause. If this story chilled you, whisper back. Subscribe to Whispered Crimes, where every story is told in the dark.